In today's video, we are going to bust the number one myth about employee engagement. Over the course of my 20-year career, this is an issue that has popped up over and over and over again. And every time I hear it, I try to smash it back down. But like a game of whack-a-mole, every time I do that, it pops up someplace else. And so today, in this video, I'm going to help set you free from this myth so you can do a better job of engaging your team and elevating their performance. So what is the number one myth of employee engagement? It's this: that in order to have an engaged team, you have to keep each employee happy all the time. Now, when we buy into this, we start to actually do things that are counterproductive. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong message here. I'm not anti-happiness. You should be invested in trying to create a work experience that creates some kind of an experience people like, that they are happy with, that they enjoy. Sure, absolutely, you should do that. But when we buy into this myth that our job in engaging our team is to keep everybody happy, it leads us to avoid having the conversations that might make an employee uncomfortable or defensive or even angry. And when we avoid those conversations, we actually are doing the work that gets in the way of engagement and often undermines performance on your team. And I want to share an example. This is an example that I have actually been on both ends of this experience, but I'm going to share an example with you of one when I was the manager. And this goes back to early in my career. And I suspect that either you have been this person, you have been this manager, or you've been certainly in these meetings where this happened. But here's what happened. If I rewind the clock, and I remember this experience very vividly. I don't remember the specific issue, but I remember the experience. I was leading a team. This was fairly early in my management career. And I had someone on my team who was underperforming, and was underperforming in a way that was having an impact on the entire team. Or at least it was very visible to the entire team. And so as a result, it kind of had everybody felt it. And for whatever reason, I suspect because I didn't want the drama or the defensiveness or whatever, I wasn't addressing this particular issue with this employee head on. Instead, what I was doing is in team meetings, and we had, I think, meetings pretty frequently, but in our team meetings, I would sort of generally talk about this issue. I would talk about, at a team level, it's really important that we do these things, and it's important because of these reasons. So we really need to make sure we're all stepping up around that. And I would bring this up hoping that the person that was underperforming would hear this message and would correct their behavior. But of course, as we all know, if you've been through this experience, that is not what happens in most cases. In fact, I had to bring this up multiple times in the team meeting, and eventually one of the other members of my team came to me and sort of stepped into my office and asked if she could talk to me, and closed the door. And she said, "Hey, you know that issue that you keep bringing up, that you keep talking about in our team meeting?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, everybody in the room knows exactly who you're talking about and what you're talking about, except the person who you are talking about." And it was sort of like getting punched in the face, because she was absolutely right. Right? I was punishing the entire team because I was avoiding this uncomfortable conversation that I knew that employee would not respond very well to. And because I was doing that, it was having a negative impact on the team. It was undermining their engagement. They were getting frustrated. It was causing all sorts of havoc. And so I knew what I needed to do is that I needed to finally have the conversation with that employee. Now, I think we've all been in those situations. I know I've been in those meetings where everybody knows who's being talked about except the person being talked about. And when that happens, you lose confidence that your manager is going to do the things that need to be done. When we allow an employee who's underperforming or maybe is behaving poorly, right, has become a distraction or a cancer on the team because of how they show up, that is really detrimental to the team. And the team is counting on you as their manager to do something about it. So this is where the myth gets in the way. When we buy into we need to keep everybody happy all the time, what ends up happening is we avoid one conversation that might make one employee unhappy temporarily at the expense of the overall engagement and happiness of the entire team. And in time, this degrades performance, which reflects poorly on you as the manager and has an impact on everybody. So if you want a truly engaged team, you have to recognize that when you see these issues, when you have an underperformer, you have someone behaving poorly, you have to deal with it, and you have to deal with it immediately. Not because you enjoy having these conversations. Chances are you don't. Not because that employee is going to enjoy having that conversation. Chances are they probably won't. But because the entire team is counting on you to do that. Right? When you address those issues right away, you help correct them. That maintains the engagement and performance, the overall experience of the team. And here's the other secret truth about this, is that when you have someone that's underperforming or not behaving the right way, that doesn't feel very good either. Right? If you've ever been someone who's been struggling to perform or maybe has been in a bad place, at it with your attitude or engagement at work, that sucks. That's not a good place to be. And so even though that conversation isn't the most pleasant one to have as a manager, it is a pathway to setting that employee back on a path towards engagement, or maybe setting them free to go do something else where they would be happier, where they would be more engaged. So set yourself free from this myth. Sure, you definitely want to work towards having an engaged and happy team, but to have an engaged and happy team, you have to do the hard work. You have to do the sometimes uncomfortable work of confronting performance issues and behavior issues head on and right away. Do that, and you will be well on your way to having a really productive, high-performing team. I'll see you next time.